Hello everyone. So this is me from home. I hopefully you can see me. I never know. Thanks for joining the stream if you are here. Otherwise, I don't know. I will be working on something that I would be working on in general, and so I don't want to make this into like a show or anything. It's mostly just me working and maybe working talking through it. Um, I think I want to address like obviously terrible things are happening around the world right now with the pandemic, and it's kind of personal to me as well. I have a family in healthcare, so I do think um, whatever like fun stuff I will be talking about, I don't want to sound like, oh, this is all great, and I don't want to act like nothing's happening, is my point. But on the other hand, I also want to maintain some sense of normalcy. So that's why I do this. The other reason I do this is because normally I would be going to events and talking to people in the community, and that obviously is not an option right now. And so I thought this would be a nice substitute. And so once again, this is not I'm not here to have a presentation or anything like this. This will be even more boring than the boring show, if you know what I'm talking about. um, but we do have a program today, and that is I need to build a sample app. So okay, I think I've covered most of it. I will. My goal today, and I have only 1.5 hours, so I will not make it, I think, is to build a sample app for the Flutter samples repo, which is here. No. Flutter samples. Yep. And this is like the, how do you call it? This is, I guess, the official repository of samples. Some of those are, I wrote them, but there's also an index, by the way. So if you're looking for samples, there's a bunch of these, and these are all links to samples by the community, by other people, not just us. Cool. So that's that's what I'm doing, and now, like, what will the sample be? Oh, there's so many people. So okay, so I see now that you're chatting with me. Sorry, I will be probably really bad at replying things, but I see a lot of familiar people. I hope that you can help me, hopefully code when I am stuck, or give me some pointers. By the way, this is very much, there's a big delay between whenever I see something and you say it. I say something and you say it. So we can actually test this. If you're at a once I count down to 0, write down any chat message that, whatever. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so that was at exactly 11:05 for me. And let's say when these things start coming. I don't know if that's already that, but there's a bunch of delay, and that's for a good reason, because especially my connection is not great, and still not coming. Wow. My connection is not great, and that means that if something goes wrong, YouTube has some time to catch up. So it's 40 seconds after I ask you to write a message and nothing's happening. So either you're ignoring me, or the delay is even longer than I thought. Anyway, so that means yeah, okay. So yeah, 55 seconds. See? Yeah. All right. So anyway, so yeah, I will. If I ask you questions, I will have to wait for 1 minute. It seems to get to what you're saying. All right. The sample finally. The sample is, and I wasn't showing my screen. That's great. See, I'm learning. I want to do a sample of infinite scrolling. And so like this is something that is obviously, okay, I'm gonna use this thing. This is my child's whiteboard, and it's a helicopter. Not his best work, but you know. All right, so what we often have in an app, let's say there's an app with a list of things, and that list of things doesn't fit into memory, right? It could be like all the things in a catalog that has 5,000 items. And so, but you still want people to be able to kind of list through it as if it was one big list, right? So infinite list. I mean, if it's, for example, 200 things and it fits into memory, it's actually really easy in Flutter because you just use a list view builder and you do all these things, and everything is great. But if it's something that does not fit into memory, now there's this problem that you have where like, how do I ask for this stuff, right? So like when the user, if I cannot fit everything into memory, then do I, let's say I have a backend, so I have some REST API or whatever that can give me the items in my list. Do I request every item in the list as the user scrolls? That's obviously wasteful because you're creating a network request for every single item. And like if the user is scrolling like this, that's like hundreds of network requests. It's also slow. It's not just the networking is slow, but also like you have to do all the parsing, everything. You pay the cost of the whole thing for every item. So what you do instead is pagination, right? Like, so coming from back in the day before infinite lists were invented, it was things like that would be done by pages, by pagination. So you would go to an eShop and there would be a page with 20 items in it, and if you wanted to see more items, you would go to the next page, right? And that kind of sucked for users because they would be like, oh, I just want to like compare this item that is in this page with that item that is on that page, and every time you would go to the between those pages, you would have to wait until the network request and everything, the layout and so on. So it's infinite lists are an obvious improvement from the user's perspective. It's just kind of sucks for us, the developers, because as always, if something is easier for the user, it means headache for the developer often. Anyway, so that's what we'll be doing today. We'll imagine that there's a server somewhere that will always give us only a page, not one item, but a page of, let's say, 20 items. And then we want the user to not care about pages at all. Like they should be just like scrolling up, down, and not do anything, right? We'll be doing this as I said, as a list. I have, I don't know if you see it, you should. I have a thing that is already kind of prepared for this. So it's a classic vertical list, nothing special. But I just want to make sure that we're on the same, like this is usable in many scenarios. It doesn't need to be a vertical list. It could be a horizontal list. It could be a grid. It could be, you could be zooming in and out. It could be anything where you're asking some backend or some, maybe even just like a local database for a batch of items, but you don't want to show that to the user, right? Okay, so that's that. I should check what everyone's talking. Okay. Right. Yeah, someone's asking if the stream will be available in my channel after it ends, and it will be, unless something terrible happens, but I think it won't. All right, so let's have a look at the app that I just made like a few, I think 2 hours ago, which is just a single. Before I go into this, I should say, okay, developing samples is different from developing kind of a real world app. In some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder. I have strong opinions about everything, including this. I have strong opinion that samples should be focused on one thing, and that should be they should be as simple and non-clever as possible in everything else, right? So you're not developing a sample app like this for it to be like the most efficient or most simple or whatever. You're developing the sample, that the main goal of the sample is to teach something, right? And that has repercussions for many things. For example, you might be like, oh, I'm gonna use all the cool features that I know of Dart, right? In a normal app, you would go all over extension methods and, you know, source generation and I don't know, whatever, generics even, right? Like even simple things, cascades, all the things that probably 80% of you know and use every day, I cannot use in a sample, because the sample has to, like, everything else except the topic of the sample should be just so easy, so obvious, even more so than in real code. I know that in real code you also don't want to be too clever, but in samples it's like super important. And it's something that you might like if you have a library, even if it's not open source library, but it's like a library in your work. I implore you, do this because people will like your samples more if they're less clever. And the only thing that you can be clever about is the way to explain the actual API. You're not allowed to be clever about anything else. So you'll be screaming at me with like, why aren't you using extension methods? And why we should do this with source generation? And, you know, no. Nope. Okay. So we have this, and this is very, very easy. It is just, you know, good old my homepage with a list view builder, and I kept the floating action button just in case we want to be able to like refresh the catalog or something. But this, imagine this is like a catalog of an shopping app or whatever else that has a lot of things, right? And we have, so this is a list view builder. It gets it. I didn't provide the number of item count, and if item count is not provided, then list view builder will just keep building. When you scroll down, it will still do more and more and more and more, right? And then I'm doing an item. Okay, so if it's even, I just wanted to show you that I have a prepared loading item tile, which is this. which it should probably be animated or something, but it's basically, okay, we're not there yet, but we're loading something that will be there, right? Also, I didn't, I probably should have said this, although I think it's understandable, but this all is very asynchronous, right? Like we're talking about an backend that is probably somewhere else than on the device. So we need to allow for like seconds of delay. And so we need to have things like loading and then stuff like this. Okay. All right, so we have a loading item tile, which like always looks like this. Can you see this? Yeah. And then we have an item tile where it takes a color, name, and price, and then just prints them here. Prints them? Shows them. Lays them out. And okay, and this is the item tile. Very easy. We'll not be touching this because this is basically, we'll always just give it the correct things, or if we don't have the correct things yet, we'll be showing the loading item tile. All right, so that's all I have. I also have, because I knew since I'm streaming, my internet is terrible, so I already downloaded the provider package. Now you might be thinking, why are you even using provider? Just because it's very easy, and it's kind of like the easiest way to have something like this. We will need, I don't know if I should start by saying this but anyway, we need some way to notifying the tiles that they should update. And we could do like value notifiers and, all kinds of stuff, even on the lower level than provider. But I thought it's probably not worth the trouble, and provider is kind of like the default for, at least for beginning and for just exploring Flutter. Okay, makes sense. Hopefully. So I like to, when I do anything at all, I like to first, when I do an API, I like to first kind of imagine how I would use it and then build it on top of it. And in this case, we have like two endpoints. It's probably not the right word, but we have we need something. You could call it a view model. You could call it like a service or something, where we can just ask it from the Flutter code, hey, what is item number 42? And that will give us that could give us like a future or a stream or whatever, but it could also just give us either that item is still loading, or that this is the name, color, and price of this current item, right? And so that's kind of like, that's what I expect. I expect some kind of object where I can ask for an item at an index, and that's it, right? So that's my API, and that's what I'll be doing. The other part of the spectrum is we have to imagine how a REST API would look like on the backend side. And I actually have, I should have also noticed noted that I've already implemented something like this in my repo called State Experiments. You can find, I don't recommend it, but you can find block complex. It's using block, but like the most low level way of using block. These days there are libraries for this. And it's basically, it's an infinite, as you see, the product list is arbitrarily large, and we have that kind of like pagination and everything like this. And so I could kind of steal my things, catalog page. Right. Yeah. This is how I imagine a REST API would look like. So obviously this is Dart, but like a REST API, if we ask it, hey, give me 50 items starting at item number or index 250, and it will give us the list of the products, right, as a JSON or something, and it can give us things like the end index is this, which means like it could give us, the list continues, you can ask for the next one. It could give us a token for the next page, and so on. So that's what we have to also have in mind. Like this is probably something. This is what the service or whatever we'll be building today is going to be consuming, and then what we hopefully want on the other side is just get item at index. Let's start with that. So I want to, so this is a list view builder, and so for every, I think I'll do something like should I use final? This is where it's get tricky. Like I like to use final for these things just because it's a little bit a little more safety, but I think I'll just do var. So var catalog is that's our view model, if you like that, is coming from provider of context, and it's obviously a catalog. All right, let's make a new file. Catalog. Let's just, I'm gonna, again, simplicity. Class catalog. And I'm thinking it's gonna be a change notifier. Again, I'm doing the state management kind of balanced way between simplicity and also just, yeah, simplicity on low level, I guess. So extends change notifier, and not from Cupertino. Thank you. And so the API for this should look something like, so item is catalog get by index. Sounds good. And then item will be an item. We need a, do we need a, yeah, we need another file. All right. That could be, okay. Let's do source item dart, and also catalog don't. No. Catalog should go here, and item is just a simple class that will, well, that's our model, I guess. So that would be color. Let's make it final color. This is kind of sad, but I will just use this, to be honest. Right? So this is the model. Here I will, in the end, just get, instead of requiring all these, I will just get the item, and that item has color, price, and name, and then I will just use that instead of the actual things. So, all right, so color will come from .ui. No, that's a different one. Unfortunately, material. Normally, you would not want to depend on material from like a data class, but hey, this is an item, and it does not have a key. Okay. So that's our item, and the catalog. A minute. Item tile. Right. So the item will then create method, and let's just put whatever we have here. Okay. Return item. Yep. Oh, terrible. So that would get us an item, right? Get by index. And now, have I lost everyone completely? I feel like the chat is eerily quiet. But I guess it's like, what would you want to do? I think I can check if the stream has any people in it. Should I, or is it going to be painful? Oh yeah, there's what? Wow. Okay. Hello, 30 people. 29. I will go on then. So this is a catalog, and one thing that I just realized, we need an item that is loading, or we need some other way where the get by index notifier can say oh, I'm going too far ahead. Anyway, there should be a way for it to say, hey, there's no item at this index, like you're out, or it is still loading. So see, so this is where I would normally use something like generics and be like, you know, class maybe T, and then it would give us either the T, content item, or something like is loading or doesn't exist, right? So like there can be that's terrible, but there can be items that, I mean, there could be indexes that don't exist. So like if the user scrolls to item number 5002, maybe our catalog only has 5001 items, and so we should be our service or view model or whatever you want to call it is gonna tell the interface, hey, there's nothing there, stop. Right. So, but yes, but this will, for many people, this will look weird. Like, what do I need to know this for me to understand Infinite loading. No, you didn't. No, you don't. So item, let's just give item like is loading or still loading, whatever, is loading. And oh, again, so normally I would do something like this: item loading true, and then everything else is null, right? Or something that we don't care about. So that would be a constructor, and we would use initialization lists to keep everything nice and clean and immutable. But I'm afraid this is again, you know, because the cool thing about this is that you can still do const. This is always painful, but no, we will need to probably not make it final, or yeah, I guess is loading is. Ooh. I don't know. I kind of, you know what? Oh, I don't want to teach people things that are bad ideas or that will hurt them a lot, like later. So I kind of want to keep the initialization list here, which is this part. But I don't know if that's a good idea. Oh, choices. No. Okay, I will use a constructor. So is loading is false. You know what? No. I'm sorry. This is terrible, but I kind of want to it will just, you know what, it will just return null. No? Is that a bad idea? Oh, or I know what it. So item loading will just this is still bad, but at least it's like yeah, whatever. Color. Well, I'm spending too much time on this. But see, this is why it's name is this, and price is okay. 0. All right. So we have a loading list. And we could do like a getter get bool get is loading is true if name equals this. And I know, by the way, this is not the best way to do something like that, but it will help us. I mean, it helps us keep the code clean. I mean, not clean, but short. And this is not, yeah, again, this should be as non-clever as possible, because this is not what this is about. Okay, so we have the API, we have the item. If item is loading, return loading item time. All right. And then otherwise, let's keep it like this. Just otherwise, so it's obvious that this is a guard, and then otherwise an item tile, and the item tile itself now just takes an item, and do that, and item color, item name, item price. Also, this exists, and also item is item. And right, all right. How to load error, because we have something's wrong. How to restart error? What? Could not resolve. What? Could not resolve provider. All right, so let's when this happens, it looks like, so everything is correct. We have the pub spec and everything, but it didn't update the actual app on my device. All right, I should show the device. We're here. This is actually, it looks like it's lagging, but no, it's not. It's not lagging. I should, by the way, this is, oh man. Oh yeah, this is because, okay, so this is the device. I like to do stuff on a real device, and ooh, look at that. Oh, all right. Okay, thank you. Helpful. Red screen of death is telling me, hey, you're asking for a catalog, you're not providing it anywhere. Okay. So at least now we have, like, okay, so this is our catalog. I think it will work once we actually provide it, and we can provide it around the material app. Could do so. That would be a provider, and that would be a provider of a catalog, right? And sure hope that okay, create and dispose. Oh yeah, we will have, oh, this is a change notifier provider. Create would be catalog. This takes context. Wow, I'm terrible at this catalog. Right. Yes. All right, so we're back in business. Catalog is working. Because this is a change notifier provider, it will correctly, like in this case it doesn't really matter, but it would take care of the catalog when we destroy the this widget, and so on and so forth. And now we're using providers because the provider needs to notify the items that something has changed. For example, that an item has been loaded. Okay, so this is our, I think, basically from the perspective of the user of that service, the catalog thing, this is it, right? You have it somewhere, you initialize it at the top of wherever you want to have it. And then when you're building list items, you will depend on it using provider of, which means provider of then makes sure that it rebuilds that widget whenever the thing changes, right? And then so which means the item builder here can just say, hey, so what's the get by so what's the item at index? If it's loading, I will just use a loading item tile. If it's not loading, then I'm going to use the item itself. That makes sense. Now you are probably screaming at me that this is not performant, because once any of the item is loaded, then we will force everything to rebuild, everything that depends on catalog. So we should use something like a selector or select provider, but that might be too. But we'll probably get back to it. Yeah. Let's not dwell on it now. Okay. I wonder if I should be writing down. Well, nothing here is actually. Hey, hopefully nothing here is too weird. Okay, so that's the catalog. The outward-facing API. Now let's do kind of the backend API, and obviously it's gonna be a mock backend because I don't have. I see some red lights here. I hope that everything is going fine. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so let's do the backend. I'm not going to implement like a backend, obviously, but I know kind of how something like a facade that talks to a backend might look like. So let's do backend connector. Okay. So this would be. Oh, this is a REST API. So, let's just call it API. All right, so the API will just be, because it's a REST API, basically every web request is like a pure function, right? It's stateless. It's like if you ask a server something, generally speaking, through REST, it's basically like you both act as if you've never seen each other before, kind of thing, right? The server is like, oh, okay, new request from someone. Okay, I will, and I don't know you. So which means translated to a programming language, that's just a pure function. We have no state that is like the server doesn't know who you are. It just has to construct everything from scratch for you. And so we don't have like a class or like an instance called server, and instead we can have just a function. And so the function will provide us with kind of the page, right? So it will not give us individual items. It will give us a page or batch of like 20 items. So we need the item page. and it has a list of items. And that could be it, to be honest. But generally, these things also include all the other stuff, like, you know, token and whatever. Just imagine a JSON coming from a web server. It generally isn't just a list of things. It has some metadata around it. So I wonder if we want to add something like that. Let's do starting offset, which is, we should know if we're asking for that page with a starting offset, but and item count. Oh, bool has next. Okay, I guess I can again make it all immutable. Final, and this is, I don't know. Should I just make everything required this items, required this starting offset, required this has next, import required from our foundation. All right, it should be meta. Meat. Oh man. Pop meta. What's the latest? 118. All right. Not meat. Meta 118. Bucket. Let's see if the internet works. Are you having fun? Internet? Probably not. Like this? I don't know. Probably top of the Cupertino. Also, all right. Did I? Yeah, I did not. So we now have meta. So our API doesn't need to depend on foundation, which is weird. And also, I think, come on. Yeah. Am I doing this everywhere? Okay, and then here, yeah. So the API will give us an item page. This could be const, and again, I have no idea if I should be adding it there or not. And the actual function will be something like item page. It's gonna be a future, right? Yeah. Future of item page, fetch page, int starting index, and then that's it, right? And we generate this. Now that I think of it, okay, so this is the whole API, right? The lowest level API would look like this. I mean, that would just like create a network request, blah blah blah. but we might want to pretend that we're mocking this. But again, oh yeah, I'm just trying too hard to be clever, and in fact, let's just keep it like that. We're normally, if you have an API wrapper or facade or something like this, you would want to just have a class, even if that class only has one endpoint, like one function. That means that you can easily just say production API and mock API or whatever else, testing API. That that's helpful for testing and stuff like that. But in this case, again, we're not doing any of that. All of our API calls will just pretend to be network calls, but are actually going to be non-mockable like calls. Okay, so what the fetch page things will do is, first it will just await a delayed future of some duration. This could be a random duration, so should it be a random duration? I think it should be a random duration to simulate things. I don't know. Not yet. This also is obviously an async method or function, and it fetches a page, so we need to construct it. Item page. It will always has next for now, maybe forever. So that would be an infinite thing. Normal API would give you like, oh, here's the number of pages. I mean, so this is a page, it has next page, and then when you get to the end of the catalog, it will tell you no other page here, and so you can be like, oh, okay, so this is where we end. Starting offset, we'll just copy, and starting index, which means we could probably do index here. I like offset. Maybe it should be called just offset. Starting index. And items. And let's say we have 20 items. I really want to do I really want to use this feature of Dart, but I shouldn't. So let's just list generate. All right, list generate 20, and that would be an item. And we do yeah, okay. So the color we can do. We're slowly putting this code closer and closer to. Oh man, we're still we're using material anyway because of the color. So generally, obviously, an API would not return a material color thing. It would be something like a number, but I really like the way that I can just do color primaries and just go through the primary colors because it looks much better and it's kind of hopefully a little bit understandable. If I was just trying to make random colors, that would look much worse. So that's what I'm gonna do. All right. All right, so we're generating these. I think this should be starting index plus index, right? And maybe this could also be that, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Yeah. So the colors will be repeating every 20 items. That's all right. The same count goes for the price. Yep. All right, so now we have a fetch page. So that's our API. And now the fun starts. Let's do this. I still have, I think I still have like 20 minutes. And this is the meat of the whole deal. So I can draw this, that's fine. So the main idea of an infinite list is that you have a user that's scrolling past something like this. And at the back end, this here is, wait, we have 20, right? So this here is one page. This here is another page, and the user shouldn't know, but we're still kind of, and even the developer, the UI developer shouldn't care about like which page is what. So instead of doing something like just having one page in memory at any one point, we will probably need to have, we will definitely need to have more than one, at least two. And because we kind of want this to be, like let's say you have, instead of 20 page, we can just assume that you will only have two of these pages seen at one point. In this particular case, you will never see more than two pages at once, because there's 20 in each page, and this screen doesn't show more than 10. So only when you're on the border of two pages you see two pages. But imagine that the pages were not 20 items long, but 3 items long. Or imagine that you have a much larger screen or device and you need all those, right? So the idea about this is the catalog needs to keep in memory a few pages, know which ones to show and which ones to put away, and will not probably do it in this sample, but I think I have it in the blog, in the old sample here, the state experiments one. You can have some kind of heuristic where the program says, oh, it looks like the user is scrolling down. Even though we're not there yet, I should start their network request, so that once they're there, everything is already loaded, right? Okay. So let's start on this. I guess I should git add, git commit. This would be base classes finished, which is a terrible commit message, but what I'm trying to say is we're now finally starting to implement the catalog itself. Okay. Should this be a map or set? Oh, let's do a map. So the catalog will have in it a map that goes from starting indexes to pages, item pages. And this is private. So that's a map. This is private because this is an implementation detail, right? Pages, the user code or the UI code does not care about pages at all. Now, what getByIndex can do is okay, we need to, so this would be a const int items per page is 20. Thank you. No. So that would be so we need to find out the starting index from the index. So that's some math. Var or final? Var, unfortunately. Var starting index is index integer division by per page, or what was it called? Pages, items per page, times items per page, right? So this is compute the starting index of the page where this item is located. Should I explain the arithmetic there? It's basically like if you have an index of 25, you are dividing 25 by 20 integer division, which means it just doesn't care about the fractional thing, so that will be 1, and then times items per page is 20, which is the starting index of that page. No, I will probably improve this to do explain the arithmetic. Item. Right, so now we need to say, okay, if we have the page in memory, contains key starting index, then we're happy. We can just say so pages of starting index, items index minus, so in this case this would be item, and this assumes that we have an infinite list, so there will never be more than I mean that there will never be less than the items. That's fine, right? I mean, the page itself could have a better API, which would be something like get item at index, but let's not do that. Okay, so item and return item. And if not, then the catalog should start fetching a page. Okay, so that would be void fetch page. Starting index. Okay, pages, starting index equals fetch page. Wait, fetch page, and this is async, and no, what? And then we notify listeners, right? Oh, and we also when we have more than, what do we do when we have many pages? Okay, we'll so to do clear pages that are not needed anymore, and this would so this is, I know how to do this, but it's it will need us to keep track of where the user currently is, so that we can purge the later pages, or the not later pages, we can purge the pages that we don't really need now. But so yeah, we have the fetch page here, and that's synchronous, and then it notifies listeners when everything is done. We have the pages here, and if the we don't have the data yet, so we fetch page with the starting index, and then we return item loading. Oh, look at that, it works. So, all right, I think that's where I end the stream because see, this is we are here. The first page was loaded, and now I can scroll down and scroll down. You may see the little bit of jank, and obviously, hopefully that would not be the case if we were not in debug, but it might. And the reason is what I said before: we are rebuilding everything when the new page starts, instead of just saying like, hey, just rebuild the things that need to be rebuilt, which means we should use something like the provider's select or selector widget that does this. Anyway, I hope you had fun. This might land in the samples repo quite a few time from now, because it still obviously needs work and stuff like this. But hopefully I gave you a little bit of idea of like what it's like to build samples. It's a lot of forbidding myself from going too crazy about things. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed to have this stream. Let me know if you did as well, or if I should be changing something, or if this is just stupid. That's fine. I can take criticism, and unless someone tells me that this is a terrible idea, I think I will just sometimes continue doing this. Stay safe and healthy. And I think I will now end the stream. See you maybe next week. I don't know. All right. Bye.